Good morning again, everyone. It looks like we've got a pretty good group and it's a couple minutes past our start time. So I'd like to get started. This is being recorded so we can share. I'm Mari Albertson. I'm the Deputy Director for the Division of Housing and Community Development. And I'm here on behalf of our Director, Ashley Cash, who is traveling today and won't be able to join us. But I just wanted to kick us off this morning, and we'll have a short overview presentation, and then our partners from National Development Council will help us walk through the application. So Vanessa, if we could go to the next slide. So just a quick overview about our Memphis Affordable Housing Trust Fund. In the spring of 2019, Mayor Strickland announced the initial availability of the Memphis Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This was one of the city's first efforts and initiatives with city funds and direct support of the implementation phase of the Memphis 3.0 Comprehensive Plan. So grants from the trust fund will be awarded to increase affordable housing in Memphis, improve neighborhoods, and help to build our nonprofit developer capacity. Next slide, please. Memphis City Council approved the resolution for the trust fund, the initial round of the trust fund, on June 4th of 2019. This created the trust fund as well as part of the advised fund for the community foundation is where we house the funds for the trust fund. And this was all approved for the purpose of supporting affordable housing activities within the city of Memphis. And then in the second quarter of 2021, the city of Memphis, through the Economic Development Growth Engine, approved $20 million for the Accelerate Memphis initiative in current interest bonds. And of this full amount, $7.5 million has been allocated to the Memphis Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we're here to talk about this morning. So the trust fund addresses affordable housing needs for households earning up to 80% of the area median income. And then to achieve goals for increasing affordable housing, improving neighborhoods, and building nonprofit capacity, the funding will support the development and preservation of multifamily housing units. So the funds for through this allocation are for multifamily. We'll go into a little bit more detail in the following few slides. These funds are available for multifamily housing units. So eligible activities could include new construction of multifamily housing units, as well as rehabilitation of multifamily housing units. And so these are defined, multifamily housing for this purpose are defined as units. They may be located on contiguous or non-contiguous sites for projects constructing or rehabilitating a housing facility. Single family structures on contiguous or non-contiguous sites are allowed so long as they're rental housing, not homeownership. For a single project, all of the dwelling units and the building should be financed under a common plan of financing. They must be owned by the same entity, located in the same zip code, and located within the city of Memphis limits. Properties from tax sales, hotels, motels, rest homes, and fraternity housing are not eligible by the definition under state law. Land acquisition is allowed with the completion of construction or rehabilitation of a multifamily housing facility or units. Thanks. And then HCD will disperse funds through an open application process. So we will not have a specific open and close time for applications. Applications will be available and reviewed until all of the funds are allocated. So next slide, please. Eligible applicants are nonprofit housing organizations. So nonprofits only can receive the funding. However, for-profit housing developers can enter into a partnership with nonprofit. So next slide, please. When the trust fund was established, Mayor Strickland appointed an advisory board that was charged with setting the priorities on an annual basis for the trust fund. And this priorities were based on available data and community input. The Trust Fund Advisory Committee is also involved in scoring applications and recommending projects awarded through the trust fund. The advisory board has provided guidance in setting these priorities and helped us to ensure fairness in the scoring process. And the advisory board will be administered by HCD, and they will be participating in reviewing and scoring this applications that we receive in this round as well. So just some of the changes since round one of the trust fund became available. Our application process, as I mentioned before, is now an open application process. We don't have a set like open and close date, and we will have applications available until the funds have been allocated. Round two will currently fund new construction or rehabilitation of multifamily units. The round two is funded through the Accelerate Memphis initiative, $7.5 million of funds. And then round two funding will support capital improvement costs, so hard costs for the construction of multifamily units. So these are the changes since our first round of the Housing Trust Fund was available. So with round two, as I mentioned, $7.5 million is available for eligible costs to support construction or rehabilitation of multifamily housing. And then the application became available November 17th of this year, and applications are currently being accepted. So the purpose of today is just to provide a little bit more information about the program and to walk through the application and answer any questions that you may have. Okay, I believe I'm turning it over to our partners at National Development Corporation to walk through the application.
Thanks, Mari. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheldon Bartell. I am a field director with the National Development Council, and we partner with the City of Memphis to work on housing and economic development projects. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen, and what I am going to do is just briefly walk you through this application that is available through the city's website, and do a little explaining about how it works. Cover page, there's an application process overview. It essentially explains what happens and the timing of each stage. The third tab is the guidelines for the Housing Trust Fund, purpose, benefits, awards, etc. The next tab explains the eligibility of applying for the Housing Trust Fund application. Eligible participants, eligible properties, costs, etc. The application also explains the evaluation criteria, how your evaluation or your application will be scored to help you as you go through and complete and prepare to respond to this application. It also has a submission checklist. This is an important part of the application because you must complete this in order to submit this application to the city. And it's based on a system of drop-down menus and scoring that you cannot see. So for example, you would choose one of the two options, single family new construction, and then you would go down here. And each one of these items with a select refers to upcoming tabs in the application. So as you complete a tab, for example, non-profit sponsor information is right here. You put your name, etc., and it says it's done. When you're done there, you come back to the submission checklist and you click completed. Then you go to the next one. Some of the cells will self auto-populate from what you put in under non-profit. What the mission statement is, and you can fill it in, and other information. Again, you'll be asked questions to complete. But as you complete each tab, you will go down and complete. In this nonprofit status, it asks you to attach a PDF document, a single PDF document with the articles, bylaws, and 501c3 determination letter. Once you've attached that, it's this one right here. You will click attached. Non-profit sponsor information is right here. You put your name, etc., and it says it's done. When you're done there, you come back to the submission. When you're done there, you come back to the submission checklist and you click completed. Then you go to the next one. Some of the cells will self auto-populate from what you put in under non-profit. What the mission statement is, and you can fill it in, and other information. But as you complete each tab, you and complete. In this nonprofit status, it asks you to attach a PDF document, a single PDF document with the articles, bylaws, and 501c3 determination letter. Once you've attached that, it's this one right here. You will click attached. And as you go through each one of these tabs and complete the application, you must come back and select attached. When you attach, get ready to attach something, or that tab is completed. If you do not do this step, you will not be allowed to sign this application and return it to the city. It's going to ask you location, legal description. You can input that in, and the rest of it has drop downs and selections. Which opportunity zone, which Memphis 3.0 planning area, who are you targeting? There is a narrative. Please read the instructions, which will be at the top of every tab. And you would go down and complete. You can type in these boxes. This is question 3. Again, when you're done with this, you go back to the submission checklist and say completed. There is a tab for project or program experience. What developments have you done? Any partners? What was the total cost? What were the sources of funds? How long did it take you to complete? If you're a nonprofit with a for-profit developer, you will complete this one. Again, when you're done, submission checklist completed. There is a tab to discuss or present the development team. Again, there's an attachment here. When it's done, you would click attached and then finish up and go to the submission checklist and make sure you check that the attachment is there and this is a completed tab. The needs and market analysis. Where did the information come from? Describe the neighborhood, etc. When you're done, you go back and you check completed. Development funding. Highlighted blue areas you must complete here. Then you would go down and what are the sources of money you have available or committed to your project and how they are being used. There is a page for you to put what, a little more detail. There is a little more detail on each one of the funding sources. When it's done, you go back to the submission checklist and check completed. There is a brief pro forma tab. This will auto-calculate when you fill in the areas in blue. The important part is down here. This is really the only place you need to put information. What type of unit, how many of those particular units, and the monthly rent. Once you're done there, it will sum up all the units and the total rents and go up and fill up the gross residential rent. You would have to put any other income that might be generated by the project. Then there is an operating expenses. You put in what those are, it sums it up and automatically populates in here under operating expenses. And then there's an assumptions table. If your rent's going to increase, what is the proposed increase per year? Operating cost increases, what will those be by year? Will there be reserves, and what will those increase by? What is the vacancy of the project in year 1, year 2, year 3, and in the future? And these will auto-calculate with the information from the other tables here to complete all the way to net operating income. And then you will have to put in the annual debt service if the other sources of funds for your project are loans, principal and interest loans, maybe interest-only loans. Once this is complete, you go back and you check on the submission checklist completed. You will follow instructions here. You'll need a DUNS number. If you don't have anyone, tells you where you can go get this number. Same thing with Sam. The city will need that info. Again, when you're done, right here, you're going to select it. You've attached it, and then you will go to the checklist and select completed. There's an acknowledgement for the conflicts of interest. You will have to read it and go through and answer. Do you have a family member directly or indirectly involved or employed with the City of Memphis? Yes. No, whichever one it is. Okay, you go through and answer. If you answer yes, you must do some explaining. Again, more selections. I have read, yes, no, yes, no. And then whoever's completing this must initial here. If you do not initial, it will not allow you to complete and submit the application. There's an environmental acknowledgement. Again, read, answer the question, yes or no, initial. An underwriting acknowledgement, read, select, initial. Small Women's and Minority Business Enterprises tab. Read. If you need information, you can click on these links and answer the question, initial. The final page is the signature page. You will notice that I initialed all the 4 acknowledgements. It allowed me to enter the name of the authorized signatory. If you do not, you notice it will block you out and not allow you to sign it. So that's one thing. The other is you will not be able to put the authorized signatory signature to submit if you do not complete the submission checklist. This will alert you that you are missing something. Once it's all done, the title of the signatory, the date, save, and then you could submit to the City of Memphis. There is one final tab. This is an information. It tells you more about what beneficiary data is. It's some definitions where you can find information on population served, development site characteristics, land use density, etc., etc. So that is the application in very brief summary. When you've completed this submission checklist, it will go from not complete to complete, and that last item on the signatory page will open up for you to sign. That said, I am done with my brief presentation.
Thank you, Sheldon. I see there have been a few questions in the chat that Warlick Guest, our administrator of affordable housing, has responded to, but we'd certainly like to invite you to ask any additional questions either in the chat or feel free to ask them and unmute yourself, whichever works best. So we can open up to questions at this time.
What was done under round 1?
Okay, I can jump in and answer that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Under round 1, that was inclusive of acquisition, rehabilitation, and also home repair. We actually partnered with 8 organizations. 2 of them have already completed working with the program, and we're working with the remaining 6 organizations. And when we get done with the entire program, we'll have a total of at least about 88 units that have been done.
Is there going to be a report available that we can see on round 1 activity?
Sure, we will have something ready because we always like to share in the great news of what's going on in the city. So we will have something ready and posted once we get completed with the program.
How much funding was awarded during round 1?
During round 1, and look, I should know it offhand. Let me get back with you with that within the next minute or so. And let me double check my notes because I don't want to give you anything wrong. And I can tell you the amount that was awarded in round 1. Okay.
While Twyla is doing that, we have another question in the chat regarding single-family programs for single-family homes. We do have other real estate related programs available through HCD. However, they are with different funding types. So we have some federal funded programs that do address the new construction or rehabilitation of single-family homes, if you are interested in that, and that can be found on the City of Memphis website on the Housing and Community Development page under Funding Opportunities.
I was late joining the meeting. Is this only for single family homes and not multifamilies?
No, it's actually the opposite. It's available for multifamily homes and not single-family homes.
As we walk through the application process, is there a person that we should call to answer questions that we may have?
Yes, I am that person. My contact information should be available for review on the screen now. Jocelyn Edens, and my number is 901-636-7428. Or you can reach me by email at jocelyn.edens@memphistn.gov. There was another question in the chat regarding the time frame from application to acceptance to funding disbursement. There is an actual timeline for our review available within the application. And there's also a date by which all funds must be dispersed, which I believe is June 30th of 2024. So all funding that has been committed under the Memphis Affordable Housing Trust must be expended by June 30th of 2024. And I believe we include that information in the application. I see another question in the chat that said, would a multi-unit transitional home for re-entering ex-offenders be eligible? It depends on the income eligibility of the tenants. I don't think that the transitional use is excluded. However, you can review the eligibility guidelines to make sure that your project falls within the eligibility. But if it's considered a multifamily unit by the definition that's included in the application and the tenants meet the income guidelines, I believe the project would be eligible. I noticed another question in the chat is all of the housing funding programs listed on the website. Yes, all of the housing funding programs available through the Division of Housing and Community Development are available on the City of Memphis website on the HCD webpage. If you will access the link that says funding opportunities, all programs that HCD offers funding for are listed on that page.
Hi, Jocelyn. This is Chris Batson from Christian Church Homes.
Okay.
I just have a few questions about the application. For the pro forma, you ask for a separate exhibit number 2 to be attached in the form of an unlocked Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain how that differs from the tab that you ask us to fill out?
I believe that's a document that you will have to submit. Sheldon, is there an opportunity to upload that, or do they have to submit that separately? I'm not sure.
They should submit it with this application.
Right. So when you submit your application to the email address listed, then you will submit that form as a separate attachment. You don't have to upload that form. You can just submit it as a separate attachment along with the application.
Okay, so you want the attachment in the email, not saved within the Excel spreadsheet?
Correct, that's fine.
Okay,
And you should mark that you have attached it on your application on the submission checklist.
understood. Two more questions. One, you ask us to include the salary information for anyone on the development team. Just curious what purpose that serves.
Salary information?
Correct, along with the job description and resume.
Oh, I believe that's so that we can understand how any funds from the program would be dispersed to any participants on your team.
Okay, and is that an absolute requirement or just a request?
Right, it's a requirement in relation to the funding that you're requesting. So if you plan to use some of the funds that you're requesting from the program for that purpose, then you'll need to list it.
Okay. And then last question for you is, do you have a template for the signatory resolution of the board that you have as one of the exhibits?
I do not have a template, but if you will send me a separate email, I may be able to find something to assist you with that.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question in the chat about the website and application packet form number. So the website is the City of Memphis website, and it is www.memphistn.gov. And once you access the website, you'll need to select the government link and choose the housing and community development link, and then you will see our page, and you can select funding opportunities, and that should take you to the location of all of our applications. If you don't see the Memphis Affordable Housing Trust Fund application initially, it may be listed under other funding opportunities. You may have to click that to access it. And there's no application packet form number. It should just be included and listed as the Memphis Affordable Housing Trust Fund application. So we have another question in the chat that says, I'm working with a nonprofit partner that was not able to be on this meeting because they are at the LUCB. When will the slides be distributed to the participants? What date? So we will make this presentation available on the City of Memphis website on the same page with the application. So it is open at all times, and so anyone who wants to access it once this meeting is over can go to our City of Memphis webpage under the directions that I just gave you, and the presentation will be located there. And that should be online later today. And so Twyla has listed the amount that was awarded in round one, which is $913,600. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me those questions or phone me with your questions. We have another question that says, what are the items that will disqualify an applicant? I believe anything that's not included in the eligibility, and we went over that earlier in the slide, would disqualify an applicant. So you want to make sure that you meet the eligibility requirements. It says, the next question says, is there a cap on the amount of funds requested per project? We have established tiers for funding requests, and that is listed within the application. So you'll need to access the application and see how your project applies to the different tiers that have been established. As far as funding requests, it is based on the number of units in your project and how much funding you are requesting. So you'll have to access the application and review the guidelines to find out any caps on funding requests. It says, how many rounds will there be, and if an applicant not awarded in this round, will they be able to apply in a new round? This is considered an open application process. So if you're not awarded initially, you do have the option to go back and apply again after you've received any notification that you were not awarded funding. So as long as the application is open, you can reapply at any time. I'm just looking through the chat to make sure that I address everyone's questions. So if there are no other questions, once again, that's my contact information that's listed on the screen now. If after you review the application you have additional questions, feel free to email or contact me by phone with your questions. And the application is available now, and you can go ahead and apply today. Now, I will let you know that the application that was listed earlier today had some problems with it, so we will be uploading a revised application after this meeting so that all of the problems that have been mentioned prior to today have been addressed and fixed. One last question is listed. If you're denied, will info be provided on why you were denied? Yes, we will provide the reason for any denials in a letter of communication to the applicant. So you will know why if your application is denied.